Five.
Hey everybody, welcome again to the Zodiac Lounge. Freezing cold tonight here in New York City. Thought I'd catch my death of a cold, but if I do, my guest will be able to get a hold of me and channel me so he can finish the show for me. But I'm really glad you're here. We broadcast live every Saturday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And this is a very safe place where you can hang out, take your mask off, both literally and figuratively, and relax. This is a free speech zone. We're not going to catch anything because the only virus you can get in this room is a computer virus, and that has not been transmitted to humans yet. So tonight's topic is mediumship, and some people believe in it, and some people do not. I happen to believe in it myself for two reasons. First of all, in the mid 90s, I was resuscitated, and I know for sure that there is consciousness after physical death. But mostly, my faith is in this process because I have sat as a medium for people. But I have an amazing person with me tonight, Glenn Klausner, internationally renowned psychic medium. He's been around for a while. He's been all over TV. And he's very happy to explain to you what mediumship is and what it isn't. And he's really looking forward to interacting with our audience. So if you have any questions for him, you'll see a little prompt at the bottom of your screen that says ask a question. And you can also post and chat if you want, but we would also like to have you on camera if you're willing, and I hope you are, because that can be a lot of fun. And I know that it helps the person who's sitting medium a lot if they can see your face and actually interact with you. So don't be shy. During his interview, if you want to beat up your face, get that translucent powder out and get the shine off your face and get ready to kiss up to the camera and look real pretty while we're talking to Glenn. But I do want to explain a little bit about how mediumship works. I've had a lot of people that have come to me, and so has Glenn, actually, when we were speaking during prep and also just right now in the green room. We talked about people that want to reach a specific person, and we will be able to connect. But sometimes, if you want your Aunt Fanny, your Uncle Bob is going to show up. Um, I had people tell me that that isn't what I wanted them to tell me. And we have no control over that. We have an ability, and Glenn will explain the mechanics of how that works when he's on camera, that we can connect with entities from the other side. I call them discarnate spirits. They are the souls of people that you knew while they were still here alive with us on the earth. And without any further ado, I bring to you Glenn Klausner. So here he is. Thank you, Glenn, for coming. Great to see you. And we have a pretty big audience. We have a lot of people in chat, and we have a lot of people on the air. So tell us a little bit how you got started as a medium.
First of all, thank you for having me here tonight, Anthony, and hello to everyone who's watching. How I really started was, well, it all started when I dyed my hair jet black.
That'll do it.
It's a joke. Yeah, and really, I was a little boy. Like, it's very common with a lot of mediums that you're a kid and kind of experiencing stuff. And so I was 4, and then I really started to recognize that more between my 9th and 10th birthdays. And then it went for a little while because I had an interest in making music, and that was what I wanted to be, was a musician. And so I had that experience as well. I still have that experience in making music to this day. Mm-hmm. And by the time I got to more my late teens, I started to read for friends of mine at random. Sometimes they would ask, like, we would go out to a club and maybe they would ask me about some girl that they were interested in, and I'd give them the insight to it. And but it was really when
so you were also a psychic. You're a psychic as well as a medium.
Yeah, all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. It's like saying all beagles are dogs, but not all dogs are beagles.
Yeah. I've had to repeat that to so many people.
Yeah. You see me okay, right? On the screen?
Yeah. You look terrific.
Thank you.
Just looking at chat, so don't mind me. I have this like wandering. I've always had a wandering eye, ask anybody. But so when you were in your teens, you go out and you would scope out chicks in the bar. You were sort of like the wingman for your friends. And yeah, she's on, she's not.
And myself too. And but it was really, there was a woman that I had got me my first job. I worked at a little mom and pop store in Brooklyn. It was a pharmacy, basically. It actually was a pharmacy. And so this woman, Lucy, who was sort of like, I would consider her like an aunt to me. Mm-hmm. And what happened is when I was 20, she had passed away sort of very unexpectedly.
Wow.
And I was the last person to talk to her on the phone before she passed, because basically what happened, a long story short, she had gone to a dentist and for a procedure, and the dentist gave her a medication. That medication had a reaction to her. She ended up in a hospital. And she was actually okay. She was about to come out. So I spoke to her at like 9 o'clock, whatever the night that was in September of 1991. And I said, oh, she says, I'll be out tomorrow. I'm going to go dance with Frank, which was her husband. I said, great. I'll see you when you come back to work. Hang up the phone. I come to work the next day, and everybody's looking real melancholy. And sometimes the coworkers that I worked with were kind of that way anyway. But this was, it was so thick in the air, and I knew something was up. So finally, the store manager had come over and told me what had happened. And my first thought was like, you're lying to me. Why would you do that to me? I just talked to her last night at 9 o'clock. He said, you must have been the last person to talk to her on the phone because she passed at 9:30. So afterwards, anyway, long story short, at the time, I was also playing clubs in New York City. And she came to me one night when I was laying on my bed and I was looking up at the ceiling. I had lights on in my bedroom. I was just laying on the bed. And I saw her on the ceiling telling me, Glenn, listen, get up, write this down. You're going to be playing this club next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And it's like, I look at my journal, I'm like, I don't have a show next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. The next day, I got a call from a promoter of a club that I had previously played saying, hey, do you want to play next Tuesday night at 10 o'clock? And I was like, wow. Yeah. So from that point, I think after the last of my grandparents, my grandma passed when I was 16. That was the last of them that passed because they were all gone before that. And once my friend Lucy had passed, that's when it really started to now become more open.
Right. So then you were totally realizing what was going on with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty spooky, because I remember my first time and I was just being smarmy. My mother was ripping into me. My grandmother says, why don't you cut him some slack? And my mother said, if your mother was here, would she interrupt you if you were reprimanding me? And I said, why don't you ask her? She's standing right next to you. And there he goes with that stuff again. It's like, all right, calm down. But I do understand, because it does take a while for those of us who can connect that strongly to actually be able to embrace what's going on and understand what's going on.
Well, by that point, I had already embraced it, because when I was, at the point when I got to being 10 years old, and I had made a prediction that had to do with my brother, actually, who's also a musician, with an artist that he would end up playing with that I had never seen or heard of before. And then all of a sudden, after that particular, watching the show called Solid Gold and seeing that artist on there and making that prediction to my mom, and my brother a few weeks later getting that gig with the particular, extremely very well known today. Though my brother doesn't play with him anymore, but that really, to me, when that validation came through from my brother, I was like, oh wow, it was pretty cool. So I knew then, I was like, I must have been knowing something. I felt like I didn't think I knew it was coming from somewhere beyond me, but I just thought, wow, this is cool.
You just used a really important word, validation. And validation is information that a discarnate spirit will give us as a medium to convey to the people that we're sitting, that will let them know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have definitely connected with someone that they know. And it's not just medium height, medium build, brown hair, blue eyes. It's not vague at all. They're very specific. And to us, they might seem very bizarre. So Scott will attest, because I've told him these stories. I'm sorry, I'm just rolling my eyes because I do that all the time. But what was your wildest validation?
There's so many ones for myself personally, or for you're talking about with a client. Right?
Well, either way, but just the most bizarre thing that.
Well,
that
I'll share two stories.
This is really crazy. Go ahead.
I'll share two stories. One that has to do with a client, and then I'll share one that had to do with my own personal experience with myself. So obviously, after doing thousands of readings worldwide for people now for almost 30 years. So when I lived in Florida in the early 2000s, there was a couple that came to see me, and they were in front of me, and they were probably about 60 at the time. So this girl was standing in between them, who said she was 30 when she passed. And I thought maybe it was their daughter, because usually the way she was between the mother and what I thought was the mother and father, in my head I thought was their kid, it actually ends up that it was the man's sister, and she had died 30 years earlier when she was 30. What's crazy about this, which deceased people will investigate a medium like ourselves because find out these tidbits about our own lives to use as reference points in reading. So the spirit says to me, see, her brother, he was wearing a button-up shirt, so I couldn't see anything that would be on his neck as a chain or anything. He was sitting really right in front of me. So the deceased one says to me, do you remember when you were, meaning for me, she's saying this to me telepathically, do you remember when you were a little boy, you bought your mother for Mother's Day this charm that says live, love, laugh? I go, of course. She says, well, my brother's wearing the same one on his neck, but you can't see. And I said to myself, man, what are the chances of this? I go, well, what's the worst that could happen? I'm wrong. So I tell him what his sister's telling me. He goes ahead at that moment, unbuttons the few top buttons of his shirt, and I swear I almost fell out of the chair. And there it was on his neck, the same little charm that says live, love, laugh.
Very cool.
That was a cool story. And then my favorite one that ever happened to me personally was because, when I've done so many readings to other people, it's cool to get the validation. Even sometimes I'm like, really? That's cool that happened with your loved one. But for me, the day before my mom passed, the hospital she was at that I saw her, I said to her, listen, if you ever go through any medium, feel free to tell them something that I would know. I didn't tell my mom what she should say, just I let her because she was a New Yorker, so she'd say whatever she felt like anyway. And well, what happened is, after she passed, there was another medium I knew at the time who knew that my mom was in a hospital. So she had called me to offer her condolences to my brother and myself of my mom's passing. And she started to say something. And she says, I think I got your mom here. And I said, no, that sounds like my mom's mom, my grandma. She goes, is her name Rose? I'm like, yeah. So then she paused for a minute and she started to chuckle. And she goes, I said, what's so funny? She goes, Glenn, I'm a mother of 3 kids. And she had two sons and a daughter. And they were all teenagers at the time. She says, I can't imagine telling my sons this, but she says, your mom is telling me that when you were a teenager first dating girls, she told you to wear 2 condoms when having sex with a woman. I go, oh my God, no one knows that story. It's really true. She goes, it's true. I go, it's absolutely true. I've never told anybody that story.
Oh my God.
Now I tell it because it's funny. But she says, wait, and she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. She goes, wait a minute. Your mom is telling me that like a year ago you went to visit her. And now keep in mind, this was 15 or 16 years later. And my mom is saying to the medium that I told him a year ago the same thing. What if he's dating women to wear 2 condoms? Because my mom did say that to me in a visit that I had. She says, remember what I always told you, Glenn, wear 2 condoms when having sex with a woman. So the fact that this medium picked both tidbits, both timelines of that up, but was like, I was floored that my mom did that.
Did you ever have experiences that you just thought, this is so bizarre? Because I did have a client once, and I was beginning to see the person that I was connecting with for her. And when I say see, it's not literally. It's like remembering a movie, because a lot of people think that we see them as we see each other in real life. And it's sort of like remembering a movie clip. It's all in your mind's eye. And I saw this guy. He had a trench coat on, and he had a blow dryer in one hand and an ashtray in the other. And I said to my client, Stephanie, we're going to stop your session. You're not going to pay. We're going to go day drinking, because I connected to something really nuts here. And it's obviously not legit. It's not coming through. Let's just end this. We'll try again another time. She said, what are you seeing? So I described the person, what he looked like, his stature, the look in his face and everything. Because you know, Glenn, that when you see a face, you know everything about that person. When you see an image, you know all the backstory to it. And I said, well, he has a blow dryer. He has a Conair blow dryer in one hand and an ashtray in the other. And he looks like he's about to stick up a bank. He's like, oh my God, that's him. That's him. That's him. I'm like, what? Apparently he had OCD. He was a smoker. He would only allow 2 cigarettes in an ashtray, and then he would Brillo it and then blow it dry. So what seems bizarre to us is going to be very pertinent to you. And I don't know about Glenn, but my challenge was blurting it out. As if nothing stands in my way in real life, but when I'm working, I mean, we get these things that we might think are absurd. Did it take you long to just trust what was coming to you, Glenn?
That's the key thing, is really trusting it. And, again, the worst thing, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of something. I worked with a lot of 9/11 families and people passing the World Trade Center. So the first spirit that I dealt with that worked for Kenneth Fitzgerald, he had come to me several times. I knew his sister actually prior to his passing, but I didn't know of him actually. So until he passed. And so after that, I started a lot of his family members started to contact me for a reading. So, of course, I now recognize his energy, just like me looking at you, and I recognize your face and your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to him, George, you've got to come through and give me something that now I'm dealing with another sibling of yours, because this guy had a lot of siblings that would call on me. And I go, you have to give me something that you haven't given me before.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does. And he comes through and he's showing me himself wearing a man's fur coat, like in that Seinfeld episode where the lady's boyfriend is wearing the man's fur coat. Mm-hmm. And he comes through wearing his fur coat. And this guy was, he was straight, man, had wife, kids, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm thinking, what's George prancing around in a fur coat for? And I'm like, okay, this is funny. And the sister says to me, I have no idea what he's talking about. And he says, you gotta ask the other sister. There's a picture of me, a Polaroid photo of me with that jacket. The woman says, I still don't know what the heck he's talking about. Well, a day later, I get an email from the same woman telling me she asked her sister, and the sister said, what are you talking about? That was Daddy's fur coat. There is a picture of George in a Polaroid photo wearing that coat. And I just thought, wow. So, when you think things, because you have to, if you're doing readings for people, you have to trust the information you get, because you don't know. That crazy thing, what I would see is crazy, could be the biggest validation that there is. And you can't Google, and then also you can't Google that, because somebody like you and me can be very easily accused of Googling somebody, especially nowadays. So, I always, the spirits are smart. I always ask them, give me something that that the
That's
client
funny,
couldn't
because
think
I say that all the time. I say, tell me something they don't know. And when my father passed, I tried contacting him, and it was a beautiful conversation. My father and I had a falling out earlier in my life. He was a little bit more rigid than I would have liked him to be. And I always tried to stay in contact, but he wasn't very excited about it. So in this conversation, when I really believed that I connected, because I don't know about you, but I go through this whole big ritual. I'll get something that he owned. So I had his dog tags. I had a picture of him. I had a pack of Pall Mall Red, which he smoked. I had to go all the way downtown to find them, because nobody up here sold those. And a chapstick, because I remember when he used to pick me up, I would smell his chapstick. And he was telling me all these wonderful things that I always wished he would have told me. And I thought, well, that's just you, Anthony, filling in the blanks and hearing stuff that you always wanted to hear. And then I says, tell me something I don't know. And he told me something about my grandparents that was so nuts. I'm not going to share it on the air. It was just really off the hook. And I looked at myself in the mirror. It's like, you in danger, girl. You need a psychiatrist, because this is some really deep-seated BS. And I was asking an aunt of mine who is passed now. I was on the phone with her. I said, I ran into someone who knows our family really well, and he told me the most curious thing. And she said, well, what did he tell you? So I repeated. And there's like dead silence. I thought she maybe had went into shock. She's, we never talk about that, and slammed the phone down. And I'm like, booyah, Dad, you really came through. So for everybody in the audience to know that we hear things that we might think are absurd, but they're absurd to our sensibilities. And so then we just have to blurt it out to you. Now, I also love reading about what mediums are by people who have no idea. There's all this information out there. And a couple of things I do agree with, like types of mediums. We have mental mediums, we have physical mediums, and then some people are saying evidentiary. Why don't you explain the difference between those three or two, depending on where your head's at with this?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's really mostly between physical and mental mediumship. Physical mediumship is not very common. If you saw the movie Ghost, the character of Whoopi Goldberg, she's playing basically that sort of point, especially when the spirit goes through her body.
And her eyes roll back, and she speaks in a different.
Yeah, and they're very rare to find the role. So would be a physical medium. People like myself, or a lot of other known or unknown mediums, are basically mental mediums, which is basically we're getting this information channeled to us telepathically. And I can tell, of course, when I'm about to do a reading, like a lot of times clients will say to me that I take on this sort of the mannerisms of the deceased person, whether it's the look. I had this the other day that happened to me with clients that were here. And the thing of mental mediumship is that they don't really take over the body, but I can sometimes feel the symptoms of what they experience. So like if something happens in their head, I'll feel it for a split second. The death. Yeah, they let you experience their death, the moment of their death. Yeah, and let me tell you something, that is not fun at all. No. So it's not a walk in the park. No. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. No.
And I also, this is something that I've been thinking about, and I'd love to get your insight on this, your take on it. A lot of people say that they are visited by their loved ones in their dreams. And my theory is that they do encounter them in the dream state because they know that it wouldn't flip them out during,
Right.
if they showed themselves while they were in their waking state. But a lot of people also say they report it as a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I just woke up. I was terrified. And I don't know. I mean, I think that maybe because they're not accustomed to having these kind of experiences, and it is frightening, especially when it's shortly after somebody passes that you dream about them, and it's just so real that it wakes you up and you're terrified. But when I was in school, when I was learning everything I need, my academic training for my degree, which is not mediumship, it is human behavior. We talked about nightmares and the difference between nightmares and night terrors. And I think nightmares are sort of memory and emotion trying to connect, but there's something so raw that's preventing you that you just get frightened by it and jump out. Now, I also lost a partner of 30 years in May, and he would only show up to me in my dreams. And I remember I was dreaming and Christian showed up and we were talking and having a great time. And I said, you're such a pussy. You can come to me when I'm awake. And he goes, well, you know why I can't. And then I says, tell me. And he said, I have to stay with my body until it's in its final resting place. Then I'm going to zoom in. And I never saw him, but I have felt him. He used to come up behind me and put his hand on my back, on my, the back of my ribs. And I was cooking the other day, and it was one of his favorite things. And I felt that hand, and I jumped for a minute. And I said, "Oh yeah, that's why people get nightmares." But to your experience, have you ever you said you have felt physical touches?
Yeah, I mean, with my own loved ones. Well, as far as physical, like my parents, for instance, who are deceased,
Mm-hmm.
there's times when I'm, as a great example, living here in New York City, as you know, there's a lot of yellow taxi cabs. And so
Mm-hmm.
here's something that can help people about signs, because people are always expecting deceased people to give them certain signs. Well, in my case, when I'm not working, I just live my life as normal, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I've walked down any of the street neighborhood and I have felt my mom's hand, especially her hand, because I remember what it feels like. And I will look, and there's a cab that goes by, and the yellow cabs only have 3 numbers on the plate with a letter in between those 3 numbers. I'll see my mom's birthday on the plate. That's not the first time that's happened. I've seen my uncle, her brother, his birthday on a cab. More so her and my uncle, more than any other loved one of mine. But it's amazing. One time I saw my grandma, their mom, her birthday on a cab. And these people were all native New York City residents. So it's actually kind of even funnier, to have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I always take great joy in that.
Do they ever give you gifts? Because like Christian gives me rubber
You mean
bands.
like the lotto numbers?
No, well, do they? Because you should share with me. No, but like, I have a client that says, my mother told me that whenever I'm around, you're going to see something yellow. That was her mother's favorite color. And she was somewhere in a very sad mood, and all these yellow feathers sort of just flew by. Now, there are no yellow birds. She wasn't in Florida or any place. So things like that. I get rubber bands because Christian was an art director. He'd be working on several projects, but each of them had a rubber band. And I was like, why don't you use envelopes? Because they're a pain in the ass. So I would joke with him. He said, you need rubber bands. And I said, there hasn't been a rubber band in my house since like 1950. And I went to work shortly after. I have an office in New Jersey, and I usually vacuum on the way out. And when I come in, it's ready for for work and everything. And I had gone to open the back area. I checked out, and the front was perfect. It was spotless. I come out, there's a rubber band right in the middle of the floor that got there from the time it took me to walk into my private room and back into the waiting room. So it's like, okay, so now I have a collection of rubber bands. But have you heard of?
Yeah, because all the time, deceased people that are the closest with us, as you are with Christian, or I am with my folks,
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of deceased people. I can't even think of how many deceased people I personally know at this point. I'm not talking about all the people I've read for. I mean, people in my own personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And but those signs, when they happen, especially when you're not thinking of that deceased loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and those signs just come out of nowhere, and you just think there's no friggin' way, and it's a great
Yeah,
feeling. And it just shows you that love never dies.
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
even if the relationship between two people, which happens, I've done a lot of readings where I always tell people, look, you may get the person that you had a great relationship with, but you might get somebody that you didn't have a great relationship. It could be a parent, a former
Mhm,
spouse,
mhm.
friend, kid that you didn't get along with. I just never know. So, but in the heart of it, from the people who've passed on, love still exists in the bigger
They
picture.
find a way. They find a way
Yeah.
to get to you. Um, did you ever have some shady people? Like, did you ever read a criminal and maybe get some weird things?
I,
Sorry.
I, I, I won't name any names, but
Good, good, because I
I
don't want to
did,
get shot
I
up.
did, I did have years ago. I had a woman politician here in my apartment that I read for.
Hmm.
Reading was normal. She was very nice, paid me everything. She's in jail now.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's.
So there's an example. But
Okay.
as far, she was cool with me. She didn't do anything wrong. So.
Right. No, but I mean, did you ever read for like a criminal, like say an assassin or something, and then all of a sudden their victims start showing up?
Oh, not to my knowledge. I've dealt with people who were in, organization like Goodfellas that have come through, and not anybody that you would know of,
Hmm.
or to my knowledge, I knew of.
Hmm.
I think probably one of the most hardest things I've ever done, besides all the 9/11 stuff I dealt with, and a lot of readings I've done just outside of that, individual readings, some of them have been really good, but the one tough one I ever did was many years ago, maybe about a decade ago, or maybe 12 years ago now. I read a woman. To my knowledge, I've never read her before. I don't even remember her name, but what I do remember about her, when I did her reading, the man that came through, when I said to him, "Who are you?" to her, he said, "I was her abuser." I'm like, "Excuse me?"
Oh
So he said,
man.
"Actually, her father, and I had sexually molested her." And I'm thinking, oof, man, and I go, I gotta just find, just to know that. I think it took a tremendous amount of courage for a deceased person to
Yeah.
tell me that. I knew it wasn't BS. So when I said to the woman, I said, "Listen, this man," when I asked him who he is to you, and I explained to her, and as soon as she started crying, I knew it was true.
No.
So I said, I have the right to stop him from talking. I have the right to shut that part down. And
Hmm.
she said, no, it's okay. She was open to
Hmm.
hearing from him. And the reason why he wanted to talk to her, because she was now in her 40s. She
Uh-huh.
had never been married, never been on a date with any male or female, never had sex with any other person besides the situation with her dad. And he knew what was created there and how that affected her.
Hmm.
So he wanted to kind of make it for her to be able to allow herself to open up to being in a healthy relationship
Okay.
with
Was
somebody.
he remorseful?
And
He was
yeah,
coming.
yeah.
So okay, because
But he was talking to me as normal as you and I
right.
are talking.
Yeah. 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 Because I mean, I used to be under the impression that once you die, you go through this wonderful transformation, and you turn into this wonderful sentient being, and you're the nicest person in the matter. I've also had experiences where, people were horrible when they were alive, and they're still like assholes when they're dead. I actually wrote a screenplay about it, about two ghosts that were haunting. They didn't want to be crossed over. They didn't have a shred of remorse between them. And there are some that will retain that earthly personality.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
um, I choose to believe, because I don't know for sure, that the period shortly after death, because when I teach a class on how to connect, that chapter is called the newly dead game. And they have to divest themselves of all their earthly ego functions in order to continue their own journey in spirit. And many times they will be remorseful, but sometimes they're not. And that's kind of interesting to think about. I mean, it makes me it made me a little tentative for a while after that. How about you? Have
Well,
you
it
ever met
very
a ghost who was a jackass?
no,
Have you ever met it?
I could tell you that if I dealt with any spirits who were not nice people here, which I'm sure
Mhm.
there's been plenty of them, when I
Mhm.
deal with them, they were always nice to me, talking with me. They've
Right.
never been respectful to me. So
Mhm.
even if I've dealt with people who've had somebody that passed on that they found that after. I've had one woman that I remember reading for. I had such compassion for her. She found out she was married to this man for I don't know, something like 40 or 50 years.
Mhm.
She finds out after he died that he had another woman on the side for all these
Oh my
years, and
God.
she had no. and she found all these texts in his phone, and she was mortified. And my heart went out to her because this was probably about the age at this point. I mean, these people are older than me, so they could be my own parents.
Right.
And I was like, she didn't see me, but I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
So so he may have treated her like, that having that lie, but like I said, the deceased person, if they were what the terminology you gave them on Earth, no, they generally, to me, they're always fine talking to me.
Yeah, I mean, at some point they will evolve, but you don't count on it right out of the gate.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge, thank you to Jane's comment. Jane Nellis wrote, "Then you're amazing." And hi to my friend Jennifer.
Oh my God. You okay? The phone fell?
Yeah, my iPhone.
Okay. All right. I thought you fell.
No, it must have been a spirit.
It was probably that guy I was telling you about that just knocked your phone down.
Can you see spirit? Can you see me okay?
Yes. All
right, hold on. This is crazy. All right.
While you're getting that together, all your friends are coming in at this moment, so they all saw you do that. You have a bunch of friends of yours in chat. I think that's awesome.
Thank you for being.
Okay, so we have a bunch of questions mounting up, but I just want to go over a couple more things before we start. We talked about physical and mental mediums. Platform mediums are people who will address an entire room full of people. Do you do that? And is it any different than reading one-on-one for you?
Majorly different. First of all, I just want to clarify something also before I answer that question, that the physical mediumship is extremely rare in the world. There's very few physical mediums I'm aware of.
Outside of Hollywood, it is. Yeah.
Right. And outside of mediums on television that have people thinking that there's dead people talking to you 24 hours a day. That's not true. Maybe that one medium it's true, but not for me. Thank goodness. So yeah. As far as the you were saying in the between private readings and then like in the big public scenario,
right. How is that a different experience for you as a medium?
Major difference, because when you do big events like I've done in public in a venue that seats a couple hundred people, as well as ones when I've sometimes done group things like I did a couple of Zoom group things not too long ago, and even there's a high school, for instance, in New Jersey. I'm always honored that I speak to this class of students, and there's a lot of kids in that class. It's like 25, 30 kids, and I don't read all of them. It's impossible, but whatever spirit pulls me to. The challenge of that is really, having a spirit line in a big crowd setting like that, having a spirit line up to where that person is, and then you have to kind of work with it. So like, for instance, if I had let's say two people are sitting next to each other, they give me this, what they call a Me Too reference, and I don't mean the sexual movement. Me Too, like let's say two people are sitting next to each other. They both have a father named Frank who died of a heart attack. Let's say both Franks were police officers. Let's even take it a step further. Now, the two women, or a man and a woman, or whatever it is, could be raising him. That's my dad. That's my dad. Then I have to really get the Frank to give me something else that make the difference. That hasn't happened
really
too much.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah.
You think that they can see each other when they're in a group? Like if you're working as a platform medium and there's a whole room full of people, do you think that everybody's loved ones can actually kind of hang out with each other? It's like, yo, Frank, it's my turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like in the movie Ghost when you see all the spirits lining up into the place where Whoopi Goldberg.
See, I've used that. When people say to me, "What is it like?" I said, "If you ever saw that scene, that's what it's like." Because once they know that you can connect, they flock to you. And I have to turn off the portal that they come through when I don't want to be bothered with them. I've even had to throw my father out of here. My uncle Emilio got kicked out last week when I was trying to watch the game, and he kept knocking my beer over. It's like, all right, that's it, you're out. We're going to get to questions. We have 15 questions lined up, and I hope everybody's willing to be on camera because that could be great. Before we open up, Glenn, to questions, somebody did ask a really interesting question in chat, which has to do with something that I wanted to ask you. Lynette asked, how do I open up to hear? And I was going to ask you, is there a process that you go through? Is there a little preparatory process that you put yourself through before a session?
Dye your hair jet black. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't
have jet black hair. No. Basically, really, that's a great question, Lynette. And what I do in my case, when I'm about to do a reading, I don't do it too long before the session, maybe a few minutes before, I just get relaxed and let myself just be calm and all that. And so I allow the spirits that I'm going to dialogue with, whoever they may be, for that session. But I don't spend a lot of time. Like, people, they'll meditate for a long time. I don't, because from my experience many years ago, I can have a spirit talking to me a half hour prior to that session, and then all this information is going through my head, and then I got to write it down, because, like, what if somebody says, "Hey, I'm Uncle Charlie, and I had a bakery," and then all of a sudden I get in the session and I'm like, where was that? Who was that spirit that talked to me? So I really basically, when I do a reading, I basically just show up like the way if I was to show up with meeting somebody here in the audience for coffee. I just show up when I'm supposed to show up. If we say 1 o'clock, I'm there at 1 o'clock. A few minutes before.
Okay, because I just bring myself, it takes a few minutes, I change my breathing, I quiet myself. I think we both kind of do the same thing, but I'm a bit more of a drama queen, because I visualize going up a flight of stairs, through a door, into a place of nature. I visualize a brook and a little bridge, and they come over for me, and that's how I just get myself in the mood. But pretty much what we're both saying is, in order to receive, you can't actively go looking, because then you're consciously looking. Your conscious is all filled up with this quest of, where am I going to find, what am I looking for? What I tell my students is, like, shut up and listen. Just quiet yourself, get your vibe real low, real calm, and then just quiet yourself and listen. And it'll feel like you're remembering the sound of a voice in a conversation.
One of the great things that does help is something that's called prana breathing or rhythmic breathing.
Absolutely. The 4-7-8 breathing. Yeah.
Right. And we did that before when we were infants. But like, if I, let's say I was had just encountered, like, I don't know, maybe I was in some crowded grocery store, and then I had to come home and right away do it. I would not put myself on top of that situation. I would still give myself a gap of time. That if I felt like, I just got to clear myself out from whatever I picked up in the street before I do a session. Whereas I wouldn't just walk in the door, answer the phone, let's do the reading,
So we have 16 questions lined up for you already. But before we do that, can you just feel the room? Because this is like a virtual platform.
I feel.
You feel it? You feel it, baby? I feel good. Now, so let me know if anything is coming. Speak about it, and we'll see if anybody in the audience recommend.
I will say something. Just talk about crazy things. And if somebody recognizes this, type in the chat, that you recognize this. All right, I'm going to go with this because this is so unusual to me. Somebody here has a loved one who actually dressed up wearing a gorilla costume. And I can tell you how I just saw that image. In the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, there's a scene towards the end of the movie where there's supposedly a real gorilla, and they put the bad guy in the gorilla costume in the cage with supposedly the real gorilla. And that's how I saw it. And so I take it that somebody is trying to make a big deal about the connection with, or they're trying to tell me it's the connection with gorillas. I actually do think that the person had some issues going on with their head. There's a lot of cerebral stuff. And I think that they may have been what we call a cerebral thinker. Like, everything had to be thought out. Everything was so mathematical. First of all, we live in a world that everything is mathematical as it is. But I mean, in more like this integrity, like somebody who would not, it's kind of weird because the whole energy about this man, it's a male, and but I do think that either he was just a fan of gorillas. I could be taking this interpretation a few different ways. He may have been in a costume at some point, and that's not, I'm going to tell you something that I've never seen that before. That's not common, So if somebody recognizes it, by all means, type it in the chat room. But I do know that they had a brain-related death. I think maybe like an aneurysm, because I can see definitely blood inside going on, and I'm not.
Dude,
in there.
I recognize it. Do you want to know the story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my partner did have 2 brain bleeds. He fell and had a brain bleed, and then he was attacked in the knockout game and had a brain bleed. And he also, the last 8 years of his life, he suffered from progressive dementia. So there was a lot of him taking notes and doing things like this. But the gorilla costume happened many years ago. You know me personally, so you know how I can get.
But I don't know the story. So that's, go ahead.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, I know you, but I don't know the story. I don't know anything about
No, but I'm just saying, you know my personality, so I'm not exactly a walk. I'm not an easy date. Let's put it that way. There's a lot you have to tolerate with me. And he was pretty much the same way, which is why we really connected. We were together 30 years. And about 10 years into our relationship, we had a huge falling out. And it was time to make up. So we met by the bird sanctuary in the park, and we were talking, and we kind of got through it, and we made up, and we were just sort of hugging each other and kind of laying down on this big flat rock. And he had a backpack with him. We always had a backpack with him. And he looked at me and said, "How do you feel about big furry things?" And I said, "Please tell me you don't have a gorilla suit in your backpack." And he said no, but there was a raccoon that actually walked across my chest because he jumped back. So for the rest of our relationship, he always brought up the gorilla suit. So
because it's like the
that's
scene
what he
of the
showed
movie
you.
Trading
I'm
Places.
sorry. I'm getting very thank you, Christian, for
You're
bringing
welcome.
that up.
Thank you for sharing that.
That's
Because
like
I think that's,
fucking amazing.
I mean, I'm doing readings basically since I'm a teenager, you know,
Right.
and I'm looking. I don't remember every reading I've done; it's impossible. But there's certain quirks that I remember, and that would be one of them. And I've never seen that before. And would show me from the scene from the movie Trading Places, where Jim Belushi, that's who's in the costume.
Okay.
Not John Belushi, Jim Belushi. But I was like, to myself, what? You see, that you have to trust it.
Yeah. So now find somebody that doesn't know me. See if you can connect with somebody who doesn't know me.
Well, there is actually a male with these round, what they call the John Lennon granny glasses. He kind of looks like a little like Teddy Roosevelt, but he definitely had these round granny glasses. Sometimes he had a mustache, brown hair, white male. He actually smoked also. He seemed like kind of very gentle. I feel like gentle, like kind, laid back. Maybe he liked a lot of. He may have actually, well, he may have actually really been a fan of Teddy Roosevelt because he keeps showing me Teddy Roosevelt, and it's not the real Teddy Roosevelt, to my knowledge. I mean, you never know. Maybe here it could be related to the real Teddy Roosevelt, but I feel like that this man had coronary failure as the cause of his passing, and he just was seemed like just a very gentle soul. You know, when I say a gentle giant, I don't mean by his height, but his energy. And I think he was a very humble man, like somebody he wasn't looking for. You didn't need to validate him. He didn't need to kind of like, I think he's somebody's father is what I'm getting. Somebody that's here actually. He liked.
Does anybody recognize this person? Anybody feeling this person?
He had those round granny glasses like that John Lennon wore during the time of the Beatles and even in the 70s. But this man had a mustache, and he kind of looks a little like Teddy Roosevelt, the president.
Scott Wass wants to know, was he a heavy man? Was he heavy set?
Not like obese, no.
Okay.
But you have to keep in mind, I'm really more zoning in on his face than the abdominal. Sometimes I'm able to see the big head. Yeah. But I do know he was he smoked. He was very, when I say quiet, I don't mean that he doesn't talk. He was like seemed like a very complacent man. He kept to himself, and he just, you see how I'm making those expressions with my head and my face. Like, this man just wouldn't talk for the sake of talking. I mean, he would talk, but it had to be pertinent. It had to be something significant to say in pride. And he looked, it's so weird. I could take a picture. I wish I could take a picture of him out of my mind and put it in this chat here. Matter of fact, the glasses, they're not so.
So the glasses are prominent because when something steps out to us, it's usually something that's significant to the person.
And they're not silver or gold frame. They're more like this, darker brown color, plastic kind of the frame. But he seemed like I feel like a man who's just wanting to offer love to everybody here in the room. Okay. He doesn't want anything. And I don't know if anybody just, again, recognizes him as a father. He's definitely somebody's father.
And one thing I will say is that I've encountered relatives of mine. My Aunt Minnie, I used to call her Minnie Ha-Ha because she always thought everything was such a joke. But when she showed herself to me after she died, she looked like she did in the 1950s. Okay, wait.
Can I interject something?
Yes.
So the guy here wrote, used to be a wrestler. No, this guy definitely was not a wrestler. He's saying, no. Mustache, smoke with the glasses I don't recognize. No, the glasses are definitely prominent. He looks kind of like Teddy Roosevelt. I can see him right in front of me.
Yeah, because the first thing you said was round glasses like John Lennon. And when something is that prominent to a medium, that's usually a tell. That's a very specific validation. Because I remember my great-grandmother's buttons were glowing.
I'm sorry, Anthony, because the guy's talking to me at the same time. Matter of fact, one of the last things I think this guy did, maybe in the last year or two of his life, but it was a big deal for him, was that he went on a cruise, an actual like cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say it was within the last 2-3 years of his life. I mean, he did obviously other things in between them, but that I think was a big deal for him because it may have been his first and only time he had been on a cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but I could definitely know that was
so that was a significant event in this person, and that would let him.
Towards the end of his life, the last bit of it, he actually is referencing somebody also named George. That doesn't mean it's him.
Mm-hmm.
It could be somebody that he's with, somebody he's connected with, but he is saying that name George, who was actually the George that he's talking about was more of a playboy, more of a, one of those kind of guys.
Okay. Well, what I had wanted to say is that a lot of times when people pass, they'll show themselves to us at what they thought was their most perfect. Because my aunt, she died when I was in my 50s or 60s, early 60s. And she showed herself to me like she looked when I was a kid in the 1950s and 60s. So they will present themselves in ways that they are proud of. Now we have 17 questions. We're going to go through these. And Keisha Brown is here. Keisha, if you'd like to come on camera, that could be fun. Her question is, I've been developing my mediumship abilities for the past few years by attending mediumship circles. I'd love to know more about my main spirit guides and how to work with them in my psychic medium development. Willing to go on camera. So,
well, I can just answer this really quick.
Okay.
Hi.
And here she is. Hey, Keisha.
Hi.
What's up, baby? You look great.
Thank you.
So, Scott, Scott. Why am I calling you Scott? Am I getting somebody named Scott? Glenn, please continue answering Keisha's question.
Scott. As far as your thing, it's like it's hard for me to tell people what their guides are because it's really the proof, trying to prove that as opposed to me saying, hey, I got your mother Francesca here, and you're like, yeah, that was my mom. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that I would say that the best thing you can do is ask them. They really don't associate, deceased people and spirits really don't associate to names that we do. But if you ask them, like, what's the name that they would associate to? And so if you trust the first thing you hear, so if the spirit says to you, hey, my name's Kermit, like Kermit the Frog, I'm not joking, I'm not trying to be about that. If they say their name is Kermit, like Kermit the Frog, go with it. And basically the key thing is really trusting what you're hearing.
Yeah. That's learning in the mediumship circles to trust my intuition.
Yeah, so that's really one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
That is one of the hard. Now we have we have Bridget McCorkle Plank in chat. Her dad was a cruise agent and went to Mexico his last 2 years. One of his best friends was named George. So you were just.
But did he have those? Why is those Teddy? Let me ask you. Did he look like Tony? Maybe unless I'm taking those glasses too literally, or maybe he would have had them today if he was still alive, but I can't prove that. But did he look like Teddy Roosevelt? A little bit, not a lot. That's the Bridget McCorkle Plank. But That's interesting that he was a cruise agent, went to Mexico, and one of his best friends was named George. Cool.
And if George was a playboy, then you probably got the right guy. So Keisha, did that answer your question? Oh, Keisha's frozen on camera. Oh my goodness. Okay. Lily Darby, would you like to come on screen? Looking for her brother and her dad. And waiting for Keisha Brown to reconnect. So if Lily Darby.
Well, I want to mention something because you mentioned Lily Darby Brown, and I do know Lily Darby Brown since I've known her since the late 1990s.
Okay.
And I know I am aware of her brother who passed, her brother Charlie. And I've dealt with him. Her dad is a more recently departed person. I've not talked to him, so I would assume that the father and son are together. Okay. But I just want to publicly say that because, again, I do know Lily, and I have no problem to see if her dad is with her brother, but I have to say that I know her.
Okay, that's all right. But it said that she's not on right now. Scott said she's not, so she must have stepped away or clicked off. Okay, let's see. Jenny Horn would you like to come on camera if you're here? And her question is, she would like to hear from either parent, her mom or her mom or her husband's dad. Have they met Jenny? Horn says sure. And Scott can bring her on camera as soon as there's sometimes a delay in sending people an invitation for camera.
So Jenny asked
Horn.
about her parents.
Jenny Horn.
Well, it's not on camera. I mean, I can answer.
Right,
I don't know. What else? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah, but I'm trying to Scott.
I like Annie Fox's comment here. Just throw lipstick on so I can go on LOL.
Okay, no problem. She didn't get an invite.
Well, can I just answer this because it may be
sure,
a lot.
Absolutely.
I think to be honest, I think it'll be a lot quicker for me to answer those questions than taking visuals.
Terrific. Yeah.
First of all, with Jenny, I don't know if one of her parents was having some hearing issue on the left. I believe on the left side of the head, because I'm getting something definitely that there was. I can feel it that somebody was having a hearing problem.
Well, this was her mom or her husband's father, either one of those.
Yeah, one of these people. When she wrote yes.
She said yes. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like they're actually telling me to tell you, when I say they, I'm going to put them as that they're together, even though I'm hearing one, technically I really only hear one voice, even if there's 10 of them talking at the same time. They are telling me that you're about to kind of do something different with your economical growth. They are showing me for you to you have to think of yourself that you can prosper in different ways and not limit yourself to the ways that you were used to making money or getting it. So they're telling me to open yourself up to the availability and the possibility of having what they're calling a new economy for you, not necessarily the whole world, but for you specifically. Are you Jenny?
I am. That's my
Jenny.
mom. That's my mom. She had a hearing issue on her left side, and Anthony and I just spoke about this last week. Me trying a new career.
Yeah.
So you're right on the nose.
I'm hearing like,
right on the nose.
let whatever it is behind you, like let it all come forward. Bring it forward to you, even if you think even if you thought who's gonna want to, like, let's pretend like gelatos didn't exist in the world, that nobody made gelatos, and all of a sudden you get this notion to make gelatos. I'll use that because I like gelatos.
Yeah.
But if that thing came to you and you think who's gonna buy a gelato, you can't think that way. You just gotta go, I've got something great and I'm gonna put it out there.
You got fire in your belly and you've got to follow that. And your mom just validated it.
I'll share something also, because coming from also a musical background, growing up with a lot of music, like when I think about being a kid and growing up and listening to the music of Kiss, and you take these guys that had this idea to put the makeup on. I mean, it was done before by a band called, to be honest with most people that don't know this about Kiss, but when they got that whole thing to put on the makeup and the costumes and do something, they became the band that they never saw. Nobody was doing that. The Beatles, the Stones, all of this. So it's the craziest thing, but it worked for them, and that's what I'm going to use that reference of how Gene Simmons in his head thinks. It's like, Kiss condoms, great. Kiss coffin, great. Kiss pinball machine. Well, that pinball machine was before the condoms and the casket. Yeah. But that's the way that your mom is giving me that idea, like, not to be like Gene Simmons, but to think how this guy went to that length, took the Kiss brand and made it what it is.
Jenny, would you mind if I shared a little bit about our conversation?
No, I don't mind at all.
Jenny she's very excited about doing something that is completely unrelated to her current line of work, which has been the work she's been doing for a very long time. And I read tarot for her, but the first time I read for her, I saw her mother's fingers. I will never forget that. And that's how she identified who I was talking about. And that was exactly the advice that I gave Jenny. It's like, when you're feeling it, you just got to take it and run with it. You're feeling it for a reason. Yeah.
I have to say, your mom is a great channel from the other side. You can hear her yourself. She's fine. She's totally okay. She's got her heart's like big. She's sending love to everybody that's here tonight. And the woman didn't know me. I always get a kick out. She loves you very much. I always get a kick out. She says, hey, my mother-in-law didn't know me. How does she know who I am? I'm like, first of all, you're married to their kids. Secondly, better yet, how do they know who I am? They never met me. Most of the people that I deal with, they've never met me.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Welcome,
Thank you, Jenny.
I do want to
That's
give
awesome. Awesome news.
Thank. There's I see here there's a chat. Diane Bansich. I know her. I've read for her. Sure.
Okay.
Hi, Glenn.
So if you can see chat or if you can see questions, I mean, do you want to field them and take some? I love them.
Sure. Well, I'll just acknowledge here Diane Bansich, who I've actually known when I lived in Fort Myers, Florida. She wrote, I knew your friend Alan Arcieri. Alan Arcieri, I want to acknowledge him for a second. He was a medium, and he's since passed on. And he lived in Cape Coral, Florida. He was a great medium. If anybody really wanted to do a little research about this guy, Alan Arcieri, he also had put out a book. I want to share something because the fact that she brought his name up, I'm going to get a little teary. You know, I didn't, when I was up and coming with my work, I didn't have other mediums to like talk to. I didn't really have anybody to talk to about stuff, except my mom, maybe a little bit, but I really didn't have, until I moved to Florida and I was living in Fort Myers. And at the time I was hired by a woman named Mary Alice Warren, who I love dearly. And I'm so grateful to her. She hired me in her New Age bookstore. It was called Planet Earth Book Center. And I did readings out here, and that's where I started to really build a following and get a lot of press and do a lot of radio. And I've done more radio than television. I haven't done as much television as you mentioned in the earlier part of the introducing me, but I've done a lot of radio, like thousands of shows, or at least 2,000 shows at this point. And so Alan Arcieri sometimes would come and do these little events in Planet Earth, and we had met, and he was probably, I'm going to say about 20, 25 years older than myself. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. So thank you, Alan. Give me a sec. It just touched me because you mentioned him. He said to me something that the work, being a medium, is not about the medium. It's about the true healing is the gift and the healing is that it brings to someone that's getting the reading. And Alan told me that if you always remember, like, it's coming from spirit, it's not you, which I know that to be true, you'll be fine. You'll do really well, Glenn. You'll do really well in the career. And you had to be there to hear what he said to me and the way he said it to me and thinking about it now just really, it got me. So thank you, Alan. You know, I really believe, you know, that was probably his way of acknowledging me tonight. So thank you, Diane, for mentioning him in that text there.
Okay. The Shelley Leggett, if you're here and you want to come on screen, you may. But Shelley said her best friend passed away almost 2 years ago. I would love to hear from her. I'm willing to come on camera.
Give me a second. That was.
I know. Sometimes we get something that just knocks us right out for a minute.
So personal to me, coming from a meme I really respected, and who was a very good meme and a really nice man who had suffered with MS for a long time, and nobody else is. You know, I've been very fortunate in my work to have a lot of great clients, and I know a lot of great mediums as well, like John Holland, Suzanne Northrop, and I've been on their shows. They were on my show when I had a radio show, and I know James Van Prague. So. I don't know, that just it got to me.
You can just.
And I see Susan, my dear friend Susan, is here.
Fort Myers misses you.
Susan's daughter, who I've known since she was in her mother's tummy, is celebrating her 19th birthday today.
Okay, so Shelley should be joining us in a second, and then you'll be able to deal with her face.
Somebody wrote here that. Also, hold on. Somebody wrote here that. Hi. Some people here I recognize, you know, from my Facebook page, like Jane Nell. Mary wrote, Renee Sellers and I here together. Glenn did a reading for her last week. Thank you for helping her reach her fellow recently passed. He was an amazing man. You helped us so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the referral. Thank you to Renee. I'm honored. So I thank your loved ones, you know, for showing up.
Yeah. So Shelley's saying that something disappeared. I guess her invitation disappeared. Look behind your browser, Shelley. Mine hid behind my browser before. You have it over there. You have it over there, Glenn.
Shelley?
Yeah. Anyway, her question
Shelley Leggett wrote, it disappeared, damn Mercury retrograde.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Mercury retrograde, at that, I have a lot of astrologer friends and they get in about their whole Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Don't let that freak you out. Life still goes on.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I just bought a phone 2 days ago, if that'll tell you something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a double Gemini, and I have no trouble with Mercury retrogrades. They actually give me a minute to chill out. I think Scott's trying to reach me. Just give me 1 second because that was his text signal. Because there might be some drama going on there. Try someone else. Shelley not working. Okay. Now Shelley says, "Can you try again?"
I actually recognize Shelley Leggett's name.
Okay.
From a long time ago, if it's the Shelley Leggett that sometimes I remember people's names. I may not remember. I may not remember the reading, of course.
Okay, so I think he's trying. In the meantime, I'll go through some of these other questions.
So, ask me some of those questions that are there. Being that
I'd love to know. This is from. It doesn't have a name, but Mary would love to know if her grandparents or the child they lost is coming through. And I also have one from Renee Sellers that might be something that you can answer more easily. She says, "Thank you for talking to me the other night. Are there any babies with my dad?"
Well, let's see who the spirit is, because you got two questions that you threw at me at the same time. And there's a male I'm looking at wearing a flannel shirt. So I don't know which, like those flannel shirts that you wear in the wintertime, not the summer shirts, but it's a winter flannel. So I don't know which of those two guys that is. And that seemed kind of like more the fisherman type, not because of the flannel, because even I wear flannel in the winter too, and I'm not a fisherman. But there's a guy who showed me a fishing rod, and so the same guy. So I don't know if that applies to...
Mary said that's Renee's dad.
Yeah. As far as being with children, actually, I can't limit that to one, because, when I look at him, he showed me like those, when I was a kid, I remember my grandfather out, my grandparents were alive and lived in Lake Ronkonkoma, Long Island. My grandfather had a little, tiny little boat, and we'd go out on the lake there. And so when this guy showed me that, he showed me like, the spirit's taking me back to like when I was a kid and reminding me of like what it was like to just go and as a little boy. And I'm seeing her father with like other kids, like, come on, let's get in the boat and go. And, a little boy, a little girl. So I can't honestly say that it's one kid. It's quite a few kids that he's around that don't have to be related to him at all.
Scott said he's just going to start bringing people on air. So get
somebody
ready.
Also was talking to me about the barber. Somebody had an occupation, not a hairdresser or a salon. Somebody had an occupation being a barber who's passed on. They love the job. They love being a barber. It was a great high for them. And then the barber is referencing the name, I think they're saying, I'm going to give it two ways. Either it's Doris or Dolores, but my first instinct is Doris because they showed me Doris Roberts, the actress that was on I Love Raymond.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
Yeah, she was a great actress. But somebody definitely has a barber there was a barber in their family and loved his job, made good money from doing that gig. And actually was thinking of going into the restaurant business as a side thing, or maybe like help another family member, give them money to open a restaurant.
That's ambitious.
There is some definite connection with that. And this woman, either her name is Doris or she looked like Doris Roberts. I don't know what to take that.
Okay.
But if somebody recognizes that, feel free to type it in there.
Okay. Shelley wants to know if Shelley is your best friend. You want to put your best friend's name in. I don't know if that would help Glenn.
No, she doesn't have to put his
name in. Somebody, Diane Treat, says, hello, my sister passed away. We got somebody. We have Annie Fox. Okay.
Yo, Annie's in the house.
Hi. And also Mary's grandfather owned a shoe store. So I don't know if that coincides with anything you were saying. So Annie, talk to Glenn. Where'd you go? Oh, there you go.
Just make something really clear for a second.
Sure.
So what Mary just did, like my grandfather owned a shoe store, which is cool that he owned that. But it's like if I say to a person, is your father's name Zachary? And the client says to me, you mean Abraham? No, don't pull me all the way on the other end of the alphabet. It's like if I said, and I'm not trying to say that sarcastically, but if I said, hey, is your father's name Randy, you go, his name is Andy. I'm like, or rather, if I said Andy, you said his name is Randy, I go, okay, that I'll work with. But when the spirit is very specific with me about the barbershop, the connection to a restaurant, and this Doris, either the woman's name is Doris or look like Doris Roberts, the actress from Everybody Loves Raymond, but shoe store is cool, but it's not connected to that. So I always tell people, don't try to make something fit when it's not fit. That's why I go, if I say Zachary, don't go Abraham.
Yeah. All right. Annie.
Sorry, like John Edwards, but him and I, we're kind of close to that vibe about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does happen a lot. They try to find an obscure way to make it fit. Sometimes we will also get a part of a name. I was reading for somebody, they got it A-R, but it's more so Mario. Okay. Annie has a question for you, Glenn. So, Annie, shoot.
Okay, yo, Anthony. Hey, Glenn. Nice to meet you. First, if anyone on the other side wants to talk to me, that's fine. If not, then if you can tell Hunter Bear to come. I lost his wolf's tooth he sent me. So either anyone or Hunter Bear. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, first of all, do you want anybody from this side to come through and talk to you? Yeah. I'm trying to be a little you. I'm a comedian medium, so because Anthony and I are on this side. As far as Hunter Bear, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing. I like that you were just like Hunter Bear about this tooth. Not getting that spirit. I am getting somebody though who was a big basketball fan, like a lot of things related to basketball. I don't know if that connects with you or somebody else. The hard thing you got to realize there's almost 200 people in this chat, besides the three of us. And I explain this when I used to do in public seminars, and there would be like 100 people in front of me. It's really hard to just sometimes. John Edward, all these mediums will tell you the same thing. You can't just grab them in this kind of a setting. It's tough because there's so many trying to get through, and I can't just rotate them the way you think I can. No medium can. So as much as I want to talk to your loved one or they want to talk to you, it's just a matter of them trying to filter through a bunch of spirits at the same time to me. And
was the tooth found on a trail, on a hiking trail or something?
I don't know. Hunter Bear sent it to me from wherever he lived, and he got it in Alaska.
Okay.
And
so a hand picking up a tooth on a trail. I'm not doing your reading. It's just that image came to me when you were talking about him. All right. So is anybody connected to Annie coming through, Glenn?
I don't think so, because the only thing I keep getting is some guy who is like real avid. I wanted to see if it was Kobe Bryant. I'm like, no. Somebody who's like really avid into basketball and basketball play. Maybe even had a basketball scholarship for college. And I think they would take. I think their life was taken. I wanted to say it that way as opposed to the other way around, because it sounds nicer than when people say dead. I don't like that word. It's so cold. But I would say that the person's life was taken. But I don't think this person is for you, and I'm sure you know that. So I'm sorry. I can't just make I can't make them pop in as much as I'd like to.
That's all right. Thank you so much, Doug.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming on, Annie. And we have Corinne.
Well, hello.
Hello.
How are you? Nice to meet you, Glenn and Anthony.
Yeah, baby. Good to see you after how many years?
Oh, don't even count.
Okay, I won't.
Thank you. Please. No, I was just, yeah, go ahead.
My grandfather.
Can I just read something in the chat there, because I see it as like you do. First of all, the person who wrote that about missing me there. Oh, Diane, thank you. That's so sweet of you. I'll have to come back to that after. But Mary, basketball, my grandfather, and IU basketball was his life. I'm not sure if that's him, but those are my memories. Well, here's what I have to ask, because this thing is driving me bananas, because the same spirit's like talking to me, quack, 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 God bless him. If this is Mary's grandfather, do you know if his life was taken? I would assume you would have known that, because that's what this guy's, I believe, his life. Because I'm not getting the impression it's for her either. So I listen to spirit. If they say I'm not for her, I'm like, I'm sold. You know.
Okay, yeah. I'll take your word for it, guys. We're good. She said he had a stroke unexpectedly. No.
I gotta stick with my first instinct that the guy's life was taken.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I think he was younger, not an older guy like a grandfather. He wasn't a little boy, but he was definitely a young, probably maybe around his 30s when that happened.
Wow, it's young.
Not the 1930s, but definitely in the 30s. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Corinne.
Thank you for the pronunciation. Yes.
There's somebody coming through this. There's somebody coming through for you that's talking about throat cancer.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wild.
My grandmother.
Almost like, huh?
My grandmother.
Does she, do you remember Phyllis Diller?
Yes, of course.
If you can't, Phyllis Diller used to wear these wigs, and she was a great actress. And this woman's coming through to me like zany like that, like almost like, hey, let's try, like picture going into a place where there's like a lot of cake, and like I can see her eyes getting bigger than the menu, kind of thing. But it's like, let's try this out. First of all, I think if the woman was still alive and she'd have access to talking to me, be like, let's go to the medium, let's try this out, let's see what he comes through. Like if you would have brought her to a seminar that I was doing, I can see her just sort of being into it, like, yeah, let's go, let's see what he says.
Corinne saying no?
No, unfortunately, it kind of runs in the family, but she was very skittish around it.
No, then it's got to be somebody else then.
Yeah, because she definitely had throat cancer, though.
Can you go outside of that?
Did anybody that sound like the person he described that was there? Somebody who's very excited.
I mean, it sounds almost like her as far as like the wigs go, because she always wore a wig.
Well,
and we have a lot of funny stories about wigs because of her. Well, like she was in a walker and she kind of had a run down Central Park chasing her wig on a windy night.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, just wait a minute. Do you know, okay, I have a connection to Beverly Sills, the opera singer. Did she have a connection to Beverly Sills, who actually lived up here on Central Park West?
No, not that I'm aware of. You never know. My grandmother was different.
Did she love opera?
This lady is so happy to talk to me. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking to you. That's what she feels like to me.
That I could probably see. Because I connect with her, but it's different. She likes to hear, I don't know. I know my mother kind of ignores her.
I'll tell you something. If this is your grandmother, I want you to research something. And I could tell you the story about Beverly Sills. The day that I was born, the doctor that delivered me, the OBGYN, whose name was Dr. Sidney Silverman, he was the brother of Beverly Sills. I never met Beverly Sills, but that's my Earl. I'll put it in quotation marks, and I don't think
her name was Edith. My grandmother was Edie.
No. I know that, but I keep seeing Beverly Sills in my head, so I'm thinking like maybe I'm sure she knew of her, of course, like a lot of people. Your grandmother
probably, yeah.
But and maybe ask your mom, like, hey, what is the Beverly Sills connection? That's why I'm telling you about mine. The doctor that delivered me the day I was born is the brother of the late Beverly. He's deceased too.
I've grown up a lot since Anthony first met me. I'm definitely open.
But this lady is like quack, wanting to talk. Hi, how are you? Hi, everybody. She's like,
I mean, in her good days, she was very, I would have to say that. She was.
But her eyes are bigger than the menu. It's an expression. That's why I said, like, if we would have went into a place like Serendipity 3, which is a great place on the east side.
Yeah.
And I can see her look at pastry, like even Cafe Lalo or any place that would have a lot of pastries in them. I can see her kind of going, yeah. So she's doing fine. She said that she don't rub anybody the wrong way, though. That message was to you.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's a crapshoot.
Yeah, sorry, Grandma.
Nothing's gonna change.
But I hope that was of help. I want to be
It was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Corinne, why don't you ask your mom, let me know, and then I'll tell Glenn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will. Definitely.
And I can't believe I'm seeing you again.
Well, much love.
Yep, all that. You look terrific.
Yeah.
No, you look better. I look like hell today. What are you talking about?
I hate you for that. You look fabulous.
Whatever. I love you. You know that. We'll see you
later. But ask your mom, let me know, and then I'll tell Glenn.
I will. And Glenn, absolutely. And Glenn, thank you for your time. Blessings, okay?
Likewise.
Who else wants to come on? Who wants to die? Oh, no, there's only two of us. I thought there was somebody coming.
Any other questions you want to just ask me?
We got somebody here. Hi, who do we have here? We have Jenna. Jenna.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So,
Hi, Jenna.
So, do you have a question for Glenn?
I just recently had a friend pass away, and I was just wondering if she was coming through, or if anybody else. There's about 6 people that I would like to hear from, if they're okay.
The way you said that before, you said 6 people. I kept hearing 6. Was your friend an unnatural blonde?
Never.
I think so.
You know what I mean by unnatural blonde?
Yeah, like the blonde I was 20 years ago. Yeah.
Well, I was
blonde. She died.
she dyed her. She looks to me kind of. I don't know. I don't know if this happened to her before she passed. Like, she looks really thin to me. Like, sometimes I'm sorry to say, it's like, sometimes when people look anorexic or bulimic, she has that kind of look. But I feel like, she's a big puzzle. I don't think anybody really knew her. I don't think she even knew herself.
That sounds like her.
Because I keep seeing those little pieces, like when people would, like when we were kids and we would put a puzzle together with those little pieces. She's showing that to me about herself. Like, she never knew who she really was. It was like, who am I? What am I supposed to be? Like, if she was your friend and she loved you, that wasn't an act. That was real. She really was your friend. So when I say she didn't really know, like, I don't think she would really know even the deeper parts of you, because maybe you didn't share that with her. And that happens a lot with a lot of people. I mean, there's things I don't even know about family members of mine, or they don't know about me. But I like her. What I do like about her energy, I do feel like she wants to help people right now. This is a very big deal. And this is something I take very seriously. As you all know, we're in a major, not to bring a depressed thing to a reading, we're all being affected by this pandemic in one way or another. And it's not going away anytime soon.
Right.
So, and as you know, a lot of people, it's not just a healthcare thing. It's not to take lightly that a lot of people have passed from it. And a lot of people have also lost their jobs, as you know, and a lot of people have also lost relationships, not through death, but just the endings of people not being able to maybe stay together in marriages or whatever. It's a pressure cooker for a lot of people, as you know. And I feel this is going to get me teary, because your friend, this girl's heart, I feel like her heart is as big as this planet, and wanting to help people that are going through a real tough time. She showed me that when kids are when kids got separated, and this is not a political thing. So I want to make it very clear. I have no affiliation to politics, and I don't care to talk about politics. Unless I have to, because I have no political affiliation. But when kids were separated from their parents, that's a tough thing. I mean, it's tough already when kids are separated from their parents in other kinds of situations. And I feel like her wanting to help animals. Like, I can see these scared dogs and cats that are scared when they've been abused and thrown away and discarded and neglected. And then somebody like you or I may come along and help a dog or cat and give them that sense of trust with a human again. I feel like this girl, I can't prove it, but I can tell you, don't be surprised if you find yourself involved in things that are, in a beautiful way, helping others, even including animals. So she's not going to force you to do that at all. She's not about that. But I wouldn't be surprised if people that she knows, she's going to kind of work with them to help have compassion. Like, sometimes, like, you could be in a store and you see some mother yelling at your kid, you think, oh, this woman's crazy. You don't know what's going on in that mother's head. Right. That she's yelling at her kid. Maybe that kid's been driving her up a wall all morning and she just snapped at that moment. So I think it's about that.
Pulling on to that, helping people. I am in the healthcare industry, and you can kind of say I do help people on a daily basis now, is she saying I need to stay where I am?
Well, that's up to you from what I'm getting the feeling of her. But I just, I wish I could take a movie of this out of my mind, because when I watch her looking at the world and the state of the world that it's in, and every decade has had challenges. When I was born, Vietnam was just kind of in the middle. And I just see her looking at what's going on around the world right now, because it's not just, it's affecting everybody in some sort of way. And I can't, I'm trying to, narrow it down into a little bit of time that we have left of the show. Say that whatever, she's okay, but I do feel like she's going to work with a lot of people she knew here to help them. And I feel like she wants to help people, like kids that get separated from their families, or even sometimes how, like now, because of COVID, let's say we have loved ones that are that are in hospitals and you can't see them, or they're in nursing homes and you can't see your parents or grandparents or whoever the loved one is. And I feel like her trying to be that conduit to helping people, which is really nice. She's a good person. She said, you're gonna be fine. She goes, you just make sure you're taking care of yourself no matter what, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that was of help. But she's okay. She doesn't talk to me about what her passing was. I think she's very it's not that she's embarrassed or anything. I think she also knows that I'm pressed for the time too. So
yeah,
it's like, but she loves you very much. She thanks you for being her friend.
Okay.
She said, by the way, speaking of thank you for being a friend, listen to the Golden Girls theme song on YouTube. With that song, it's called Thank You for Being a Friend. She said, that's for you.
And we have Christine here.
Hold on one second, Anthony. I can't just jump that quick for a second. I'm sorry. Give me 2 minutes. I want to read something that somebody wrote here. Bridget McCorkle Plank wrote, at the reading the room segment at the beginning, you saw a Teddy Roosevelt type of person. I believe, 100% believe it was my dad. One of his favorite movies was Weekend at Bernie's. Great movie. Everybody said Dad looked just like Bernie. And actually in the movie Weekend at Bernie's, Terry Kaiser, who is the actor in that, who actually was on a couple episodes of Three's Company. I was a big Three's Company fan. He actually, in the Weekend at Bernie's, he does have those exact glasses actually, and the mustache, the Bernie guy. So, that would have been much easier to put in my head than Teddy Roosevelt. But that's cool. Thank you for sharing that. And then just want to see somebody else. Hold on. Okay, I can't answer everybody's question at the moment, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Christine.
Hello, Christine. Nice to meet you.
Oh, good. How are you?
The screen got smaller, so I don't see her. I only see just her glasses. Maybe go back a little bit.
There we
go. Maybe I'll take my glasses off.
Move back from the camera a little bit.
I see you like that, which is cool. Don't mind me. Most people that don't know me don't know that I have a whole comedic side of me, besides being a medium and a musician.
I'm just wondering about my grandfather. He had passed away when I was 7. He was like the father figure in my life. He passed away out of a heart attack.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I was going to ask you, because if this is him talking, I don't know where you live. I have no idea. Just so anybody knows, like the few of my friends that are in this chat room, I know where they live because I'm friends with them. I know where Anthony lives because we're in the same neighborhood of Manhattan. But I'm from Brooklyn, so I know parts of Brooklyn pretty well. That's where I was born and raised. And I keep hearing Crown Heights, which is a section of Brooklyn. Does that mean anything to you at all?
I know I used to live in the Bronx, New York, the South Bronx.
Yeah, that's totally 2 different worlds. Mm-hmm. Do you know if your grandfather had anything to do with Crown Heights? I'm sorry to have to ask this because there's a reason that I keep getting that reference about Crown Heights, and it's the section of Brooklyn which is on Eastern Parkway.
I mean, maybe. I don't really know too much of my grandfather's history.
This is your mom's dad?
This is my mom's dad, yeah.
Write this down. See if you find out if there was, maybe he used to work in Crown Heights, Brooklyn at some point. Maybe he had other family members there that you're not aware of. But you can write it down. It doesn't hurt. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody says to you, "We don't know," but somebody may go, "Wait, I do know what that means." He actually looks to me kind of a very sort of he's a sort of not an everyday spirit that would come in. He more kind of comes and goes out. Like I think he was like that in life too. Like he's there, and he came home. He was there, but like if he went to the bathroom, he could be in the bathroom hiding. Not hiding out, but like he's there and sort of not there. And I realize you were a 7-year-old girl. This has nothing to do with you, but that's that I got. I just kind of really quickly could tell you. I don't know why I'm not seeing everybody's face right, Anthony. Like hers, I just see her like this.
Probably because she's too close to the camera. People need to know that when you're on Crowdcast, you cannot treat it like your iPhone.
You can't treat it like. Anyway, but that's what I got.
You just got to get yourself back in the frame, because when we're all on screen at the same time, everybody shrinks, so we might just see a portion of your face.
Okay.
Yeah. I noticed that message is very kind of like very, you got to realize what I'm working against also on that time. So I don't really have a big message for you from him. He does make me think, though, I don't know if you had an issue early on with bullies, like when you were in school.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is totally safe. So please don't feel embarrassed.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through their own crap.
Yeah.
But I look at him as being very protective of you from people who have bullied you, even verbally. Like even if you went on Facebook and wrote, let's say you wrote right now, I'm a big fan of Trump or a big fan of Biden, and you got attacked for your beliefs, which first of all, to all of you who do that, you shouldn't do that. I'm sorry to reprimand you on that, but let people be who they are. And so if you wrote on there, I'm a fan of Trump, I'm a fan of Biden, whoever it is, you have that right to be that. And so he's telling me that if you ever do something that can happen, because this is the way the internet is, people hiding behind a computer and saying what they want, no offense to anybody, but it's the truth, that you have to stand in your power and not allow anybody, like if you wanted to be a musician right now and sing and go on American Idol's not in production, but I'll give a quick example. You want to go on American Idol and sing, don't give a blank what anybody says. You go and be an American Idol, whether you get on there or not. But I think that lesson, when I look at him, he's your protector about people who would bully you, in words. And it's hard, it's like, even when I was a kid, you'd have these kids that'd be like, whatever they would say. Yeah. But you have to still, be who you are.
So it's
like when I first started. It's like when I first started doing readings professionally for people, I would sometimes once in a while get an email from somebody saying I'm doing the devil's work. As far as I know, I didn't tell anybody to kill themselves to this point. No offense.
Can we
it's
invoice the devil? Does the devil pay? I'll send him an invoice.
The devil, he's all right. He's corrupted a lot of rock stars.
Yeah.
Getting on that, but it was true though. People used to sometimes send me an email. You're doing the devil's work. And then at first I was like kind of like taken back, but then I realized it's not my issue. It's their issue.
Right.
They're entitled to belief, and who am I to change their belief? I'm not here to change anybody's belief system, nor do I want to be.
Right.
We're kind of getting to a point where we may have to leave, so we may be able to stay on a little longer. Christine, I think that was a beautiful gift from your grandfather to remind you to remain courageous and stand up for yourself, because as children, we don't have the belief in ourselves that we eventually begin to own when we become adults. So for him to be watching over you and remind you to just stand tall is such a beautiful thing. Okay, we're at 8:30 and we're probably going to have to bring this to a close, which is really unfortunate because we have so many questions we didn't get to, which is going to bring me to my next question.
Can the show go another 15 minutes? I mean, I'll do it.
As far as I'm concerned, it can. Scott, can we do that? You can say yes in chat or no in chat. Just let us know. But I also put Glenn's URL, his web address in there. So if anybody wants to contact him after the show, you'll be able to do it.
Yes, and I also have a Facebook page too. They can go search Glenn Klausner on Facebook and become. I don't like to use the word fan. I mean, whatever you want.
I'm your fan. I'm your fan every time I see you in the food store. It's like, yo, fans are good. Let me just text Scott. Can we get 15 more minutes?
I think he wrote yes.
He did?
Yeah.
You do? Christina tried to bring you. Oh, he said yes. Okay, so let's do this. Cool. Anybody else want to come up? Or did you want me to go through some questions we got in this enormous queue? Scott said yes. Okay.
And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's writing. I see the comments that people are writing, and thank you to people who are writing really comments. Thank you.
Okay. I know that Norcy said her dad passed very young. Has he come back as my grandson? That's interesting.
I heard no.
Okay. No. It's unfortunate because her grandson is spectacular.
No, I do. I don't know what the white rice thing is, if that's to do with her father or to do with the kid, but I definitely get a love of white rice. Or for all I know, her kid's about to have a love of white rice.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. She just said thank you. Norcy said thank you. Oh, and John's here. Wow, everybody's here. Uh-oh. This is getting a little freaky. Does anybody else want to come on screen, or can
any of those questions that are there? I'm not reading them, so can you read me? Like,
I will. I will. Asking for a friend. I'm having trouble logging onto the website. Well, we can't help you. Can't help with that, apparently. The Mercury retrograde. Leanne Leitner. Am I saying your name right? I hope I'm not massacring your name. Leanne Leitner. She said she
thank you,
accepted.
Or Kesey. Sorry, Kesey. Thank you for your comment.
Okay. I'd love to know if my grandparents or the child I lost is coming through, and I don't. That's from Mary.
I don't know. You know,
I know it's hard to take questions like that.
I really. I don't want to make it that generalized.
Right. Yeah, I'm scrolling through looking for.
If I come out and say, "Hey, do you recognize who this spirit is?"
Okay, here's something. Is my best friend Red Hat Lady coming through, or my father? It's from MG. So do you see somebody with?
Say that again.
Is my best friend Red Hat Lady coming through, or is my father coming through?
Well, let's see this. This will be one for the books. So she said the Red Hat Lady or her father.
Uh-huh.
And what's her name? MG?
It just says MG, yes.
Like Booker T and the MGs? Cool.
Yeah, I like that. Good band. Okay. You're too young to know that, but I love them.
Who, you?
Yeah.
You or me?
No, it says you're too young.
Yeah.
I used to love them.
Well, I don't. This is going to sound asinine, but I'm going to go with it. I don't know if her father was a really big fan of McDonald's, because I keep seeing the emblem for McDonald's, the logo, and like the drive-through, and a lot of the fast food places, like it just keeps playing out in my mind, like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Arby's, like all those places. And I know, granted, a lot of people like fast food, so I know it can sound very generic, but this guy, I keep just getting that whole thing. And there's something about the police, and I don't know if he was involved with the police or he was afraid of the police. I keep seeing bullets, actually, like somebody that puts bullets in a gun. Wow. And I can tell that, yeah, there's definitely some connection. Like when cops have to, I'm not a gun person, but, obviously people clean the gun, they take it apart and put it back together and stuff. And I'm looking at, matter of fact, which is even more interesting. Okay, talk about like if you ever get these criminal type of people. So if anybody's seen the movie Goodfellas, and remember Joe Pesci's character in that movie, it's kind of like that sort of wise guy kind of thing. Gotcha. First of all, the guys that were, and let me just clarify something, usually guys that are in the mafia, they don't eat at McDonald's. So that's number one. Number two, not to say they never have a hankering, but generally you won't find them at McDonald's. But there's somebody coming through to me, and I don't know if it's this lady's father, but there's a guy is making me think he used to like to drive through all these places and get through it, and I can see the gun and clean the gun and loading the gun. I don't know if he was a police officer or he was just maybe he was afraid of cops. Does anybody recognize that? While my head is still on my head.
Yeah. Well, I'm also texting Scott because there seems to be a.
I also actually at this point also, what I really like, if I can't answer all these questions to deceased people.
Right.
Head is going like at this point. If you want to ask me like kind of cool questions, about mediumship, I'd actually probably like that a little bit better at this point.
Okay, so Scott said that he's trying to get people. He has 3 people trying to get on, and that he can't do anything about that. So there's something wrong with their equipment or his thing. So who wants to know dirt? Who wants to know dirt about Glenn?
This last guy with the McDonald's thing is like taking up a lot of space in my head. That I really, if I sound like I'm getting a kind of snippy, it's because of him. So
was that his way?
I don't want to channel any more spirits right now. If somebody wants to ask me some cool questions, I'm open to that.
Okay, so who had? Let's see. I know there were a couple in chat that. Just give me a second. Let me scroll through them, because there were a couple that had to do with you, with just.
You got a picture. Somebody's got a picture being me, and you're like, always people are asking me, is my mom coming through my dad? And that's all cool, and I'm happy to do that. But after a while, I can't sustain that constant.
So here's something interesting. What is the most moving experience you've had as a medium?
The 9/11 people.
Oh yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Would that be uncomfortable for you, or can you share some of your?
Well, the first spirit that I dealt with, who worked for Ken Fitzgerald, who I talked about earlier, who showed me one thing that he was wearing a fur coat and in a Polaroid photo. When I first dealt with him, one of the things I asked him, there's a lot to this story, but I'll make it a real short, bridge version of him. I had asked him if he was mad at the people that had, a lot of people are responsible for the World Trade Center for that event. It's not just one group of people, it's a lot of people involved. And I asked him if he was mad at these people. And he said, no, because he was the kind of guy that he was in the first World Trade Center bombing and survived it in 1993. And imagine going down 100 flights of stairs and surviving that incident. So the second time around, which he lost his life, he when I asked him if he was mad at any of the people that caused that to happen, he said he never had a mean bone in his bite to hate people. He wasn't going to start now, and that was a very profound experience for me.
Okay.
Because that event was a very evil event.
Yeah, it was. I had some experiences there, and also after Hurricane Sandy that were very moving for me. Finding people's bodies in houses. There was a young mom and her child that were in an attic, because I guess the water went up to like the second floor, and the kid was still there, and his mom had moved on. And I even got it on my phone. Now I was there with some rescue people, so they didn't know what I did, and I'm like, I said, can you see a light? Can you see that light over there? You see somebody has electricity? Like, no, I'm just talking to myself, just kind of humming. You see the light, see the light. The poor kid didn't know where his mommy went, and then I had to start talking to him as if he was alive and let him know that everything was okay. Mom had to go away for a minute. She's going to come right back, but she left me here to take care of you. How does this room look to you? Do you see any part of the room that looks a little lighter? And I actually got it on an EVP. I got it on my cell phone. I said, do you want to come forward? And you hear him say, come forward. I come forward. He must have been around 3 or 4 years old. He was adorable. And then I said, well, if you see where the room looks a little lighter, start walking toward it. Don't be afraid. And then I heard him say, Mommy, and then footsteps, and then nothing. And my heart, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it. But we do get to be very grateful for the work that we do and for the people that we do.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy. What most people don't realize is that it takes, again, I apologize. Did it sound like, I was coming off a little snarky before, but it's a lot of energy. When you've got,
it is.
And there's almost 200 people here, and there's a lot of spirits that are trying to get through. It's challenging, but it's great. I'm honored to do what I do, and I love what I do. And then Jenny Horn wrote here, you said you like music, and do you ever use music to connect with spirits? First of all, my first background is that I am a musician. I still do currently make music. I don't perform live at this point, but I do still record. I actually just did a version of Everyday People that's out under my music name, Glenn Kidd, with 2 N's, 2 D's on that's on Amazon. Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone. And so yeah, I use music all the time. Music spirits music is like music and mediumship are like this,
Oh yeah.
Music. And so when spirits will reference sometimes music to me, absolutely, I can relate to it.
Well, it's interesting because I have a background in music as well. I did some writing for many years, but what I love about music, because I would put all of my pain, all of my anger, any emotion that I had as a child into my art. But then every time I walked past that painting, it would piss me off all over again. So I said, I need something that is not tangible. And the beauty about using sound is that once that note finishes sustaining itself, you can't really prove that it was ever there. So it's just so temporary and so ethereal. And it's a beautiful way of communicating. And I think that one of my first talents was developing clairaudience, which was being able to hear before I was able to see. And again, no, it isn't like hearing things literally. It's like remembering the sound of somebody's voice, remembering a snippet from a conversation, hearing a phrase spoken by a voice you don't recognize, but it's an auditory experience. Does that happen to you when you?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, you hear
Bigger
them.
as you know, we're much bigger than the body. So that's why sometimes like a spirit, like when that spirit was referencing, for instance, the glasses and that kind of look, or like when I was describing about the woman's grandmother about the Phyllis Diller thing. Thank goodness for me being a child in the 1970s that I can reference a lot of things, at times. There's some things I can't reference. Like if somebody was to say to me, hey, do you know what all these Kardashian girls look like? I'd be like, no, I know what Kim Kardashian and her mother look like, but all of the young, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
So it's easy for me to use. Sometimes the spirits will use our frame of reference. And a lot of memes like John Edward will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody here, John Rowe, we're truly blessed to have you both on this journey. Any advice or thoughts that comes from the spirit world on how to keep pushing through this darkness of COVID and time in history? Very great question. Do you mind if I answer that? I've been asked.
I think stay centered. Keep your eye on your prize. Don't be distracted, because COVID is very serious and it does need to be respected as a very serious condition. But it's also being used by people who can use it to manipulate people either into fear or whatever. Everybody needs to really think very hard about what do they believe they need to do to keep themselves safe. We can be safe in this society if we assume responsibility, but continue going forward. There are many different ways to do this. I mean, we're reading people on Crowdcast. Okay, I used to teach workshops and do this in a brick and mortar place. So it's about being adaptable. It's about not losing your steam, not letting yourself become defeated by it. And as long as you know that every minute of your day, you're doing everything you can to keep yourself safe enough to get through the night and have another day, do it. And be kind and patient with people, more so than, which is really sounds like craziness coming out of my mouth, because those are like those are the two things I got stiffed on when I made my soul contract, was anything warm and fuzzy. But be patient, be kind, and be patient with yourself too, and be innovative, and do not take your eye off the prize. That's what I think. What do you think, Glenn?
Very well said, but I also think that about COVID, you have to respect it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Bless yourself in wellness. Remember that the source that people call God is in perfect radiant health. This happens to me all the time. Every single day, I have a misalignment in thinking. And when that misalignment in thinking happens, and not when I'm channeling, but when I'm just being Glenn, there is these moments, sometimes even my thoughts can be wavering. And so when we're separated from source, when we get away from that, that's where we're so kind of almost vulnerable to things. But our faith is, whatever that faith is, it could be just faith in love, faith in yourself, faith in humanity. COVID is a teacher. If I look at it like the way I look at 9/11 as a teacher, the way I look at anybody's death, whether they're a person a celebrity, it doesn't matter. Everything's a teacher. We're all teachers to one another. I'm no better than you. You're no better than me. We're all the same.
Right.
And we just have different points of view, and that's what makes us beautiful as human beings. But I think that if you can not give it the energy of fear and just know that it's not your reality, and do what you feel that makes you feel safe. But the thing when you wrote like the darkness, I understand the darkness is just the energy of it. But if we look at it from a spirit point of view, if I was asking the spirits, which I have, about COVID, they wouldn't think of it evil. Like when I made the comment a few moments ago about that 9/11 was an evil event, that was my human side. That wasn't spirit side saying that. My side saying that.
Yeah, well, there's no judgment in spirit. There's no good or bad. Things just are. And pretty much that's really good advice to live by. Nothing is inherently good or bad. It's your interpretation and your response to it and the way you perceive it that's going to make it positive or negative. So if you find something is really oppressive, the only thing you can do, the only thing we have control over is how we respond. Change your attitude about it. 9/11 was evil in many ways, but it was also very insightful. And there were a lot of lessons that were learned.
People came together. Firefighters from the States were here to help. I was in Florida when that had happened, but it was very beautiful, the fact that people were coming together for each other. I think in this time of what we're facing in the world, we have to come together and not...
So they're not letting us out of our house.
If I actually make sure...
But this is how we come together online. This is how we come together in a video.
If I may just share something really quickly. Sure. You know, when I record music, it's usually always my music. It's never been a cover song. When I've played live, I've at times played people's cover song, you know, cover song live. But when you record a cover song, you have to get the licensing rights and this whole process to go through. It's not that big of a deal, but something kept gnawing at me back in November or actually in October, with Everyday People, which I love that song. I love Sly and the Family Stone. It's a big influence to me. So I contacted one of my friends who has a studio and asked him and other musicians. My brother plays bass on it, and so I have and I play on it. I play piano and guitar and I sing on it, and it's great. It's a great band of musicians. I recorded it in I guess it was in late November, early December. It was over a week period of sessions with the musicians and mixing and mastering. And the ironic thing that the day that it was mastered, and I got the guy who mixed and mastered the song for me was this guy Jay Messina, who's worked on all the early Aerosmith records, worked with John. Yeah, and you know, the day I went to pay him, and he gave me the little USB thing with the song, the master was on the day of John Lennon's 40th anniversary of his passing. So that was no coincidence. And I just, the point of what I'm saying is that if you listen to the song Everyday People, whether it's my version or Sly's version, listen to the lyrics carefully, what he's saying. It's like, we've got to come together.
We're all the same. We are all the same every day. We are all everyday people. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah. But, you know, I'm so grateful to be on your show tonight and grateful to everyone who's here.
And I'm delighted that you came. And apparently there's so many, we could stay on obviously for hours, but we can't, which indicates that you might want to consider coming back. And, you know, as frequently as you like, but because apparently there's a lot of interest in what you do. And I would love for you to be able to connect with these people if you're comfortable doing that. So keep an eye.
Thank you for having me. Thanks to everybody for being here and your questions and coming on. And, you know, even the last girl that we took live when I talked about her grandfather talking about the bully thing, you know, I know it takes, you know, I have to trust that, and I was hoping like that really wasn't the case with her.
Well, she validated it. She validated it in chat, and I'll go through that later. And
I commend her for acknowledging that. It takes courage.
Yeah, it does. But it's really helpful when a loved one comes and shows up and gives you, holds you up, stands you up taller and straighter and stronger, and gives you the courage to do that. And that's what changes life. That's how these readings, that's how medium sitting can change your life. It's not just a big deal about having proof that we've connected with someone that you love. It's what they're telling you. I went on strike for about 20 years because these people were coming through to their loved ones wanting to resolve these issues, and everybody wanted to know, well, where's the money? It's like, really? Now you got nothing. Get the fuck out of here. Here's your money back. Go. And I'm not sitting for anybody because I had the back of the spirits. I had the back of the people the deceased that were showing up. And there's a lot we can learn from them. The fact that they can come through, that they can find somebody who can bring their words to you unfiltered and give you the gifts that they still can give you from the other side.
Yes.
So precious.
I do want to add one thing, if that's okay for everybody that's listening. We all have loved ones that are in spirit. Anthony does, I do, you do. And, you know, when our loved ones pass on, they don't become these exalted beings. So when we ask them, like, you know, for certain spiritual, like, guidance, which is fine. Like, if you say, if I was dealing with someone's mom and they said, hey, ask my mom, should I marry this guy? First of all, I would say, this is me, Glenn, I would say, if you're asking me to ask your mom about some guy you should marry, you've got a bigger problem on your hands.
Oh, yeah. You're not ready to get married.
Yeah. But and you may have asked your mom that advice on the other side. But a lot of people think that these people have educated me a long time ago that we have free choice and we have our own life lessons, and they can't interfere. They can guide us. They can look after us. They can protect us. I do it all the time. Give certain advice, but ultimately, like, I can't just tell somebody like to get divorced or marry, and that's really up to you. And you should not expect your loved ones to think of them as these. I mean, you can think of them as your angels, it's okay, but don't think of them that they have any more greater answer than you. I've always believed in this thing, like the Beatles song, "Think for Yourself," and I always believe giving people the power back. So when people say to me, "You're the way to my loved one," I'm like, "Oh no. I take the Jesus thing. You're the way to the source, not me. I like to be that me in the middle, but you really are the way to your loved ones, not me."
You, Glenn, are the person who can do the interpreting. It's almost like you're a messenger with a document that they can't access or read. So you get to do that, but it's really between them. It was their power and the power of their loved one that were able to come. It was their love of their person that brought them together. You were the intermediary. You were the conduit that brought it. You were the connection that pushed that button and made that bell ring. And that's a beautiful talent to have. It's a beautiful talent to have. And I have to say that I do know Glenn personally. He's one of the most humble people and fun people. He's a riot. We met at Astro West, and we were just hysterical laughing. And I love seeing him in the neighborhood. And please do follow his link. Give him a call. Set up an appointment if you like. I would love for you to come back. You're obviously very loved. And this is a subject that apparently a lot of people are more interested than I thought, because we have a million questions still unanswered. So I'm sorry for everybody we didn't get to. But
me too. Also, if people want to book an appointment with me, the best way is really to email me. I don't have the time in my schedule to call people back to book an appointment. Email is the fastest, easiest way for me to respond.
So go to glennklausner.com. There's an email button there. Do it. And he will get back to you, and you will have an amazing reading. So thank you. And then I just have a couple of more announcements that I want to make before we end.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And I look forward to having you come back. Next week, I'm not going to tell you who our guest is because I'm still waiting for confirmation. We're like 99% there, but it's an amazing person with an amazing talent. And you're going to be very surprised at how it works. But I would like to remind you that I am here every Saturday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. until Scott changes that. Every Thursday, we have Lady Rhea that either does the Enchanted Cafe or Witching Hour. Both are always spectacular and completely unpredictable. She's a riot. You should really check her out. She's fun. But on Monday night, February 1st, I'm doing a special on an ancient holiday called Imbolc. And we are going to have a little lecture on that. It's Monday night, 8 p.m. in Eastern time. You're going to learn the history of it, and it's going to give you so much hope about how to get through this dreary winter. And there's a very simple ritual that is not against anybody's religion. It's just basically between you and yourself. All you need is a notebook to take notes during a lecture, and I'll also take questions. 13 candles to use over the next 13 days, and an open mind. So with that, I thank you again for coming. And we are so lucky to have had someone as talented and generous as Glenn with us tonight. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And I want to see you all on Monday night. So please follow the link that I left, and we will do it then. Thank you very much, and good night.